I show up a minute late and I notice Spags is throwing me under the bus in the chat. I mean, how do you do me dirty like that?
This is just what we do on the show to bring you guys the best fantasy football analysis possible. And the regular season is over. This show will continue to go on. So we're going to recap week 18. We're going to talk about coach firings. We're even going to do a snake draft of all the playoff teams to decide who we think is going to be the best chance to win the Super Bowl. And we have an underdog playoff best ball draft too. The Mitten 3 is out on your streets now, and we'll be there in just a little bit after this intro. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Splash Play, the fantasy football podcast for every game under the sun. And once again, I am Chris Spags, joined by your friend and mine, Pete Overzet. Pete, how did you do in this fine week 18 of cash games for you?
No, cash game week is over. I believe my final tally was I won 38% of my head-to-heads. It was rough out there. I paid up for Jonathan Taylor. It seemed like the big decision point for a lot of people was whether to pay up for Taylor with Cup or Justin Jefferson with Cup. And obviously, Justin Jefferson ended up being the right play. So I lost that one. I did see I had a very, very similar lineup to Adam Levitan, the true cash game king. So, I felt like my process was dialed in, but I didn't run well yesterday for sure.
That was an unfortunate one. And I'm going to do a little spoiler here because I'm excited to talk about Ride or Dies this week, Pete, because I think there are some interesting data points to look at for that one. And your 1 point approach in Ride or Dies with our good friend Josh Norris, who was on the show on Friday, also only netted you 1 point in that game of ours.
Wow, this just proves that, GPP Pete is the true quintessential version of Pete, and YOLOing it from the 3-point line is how I need to operate.
That is true. I think there's a lot to dig into on that, which we will do on this show. But first of all, whether you are watching on Pete's channel or the Splash Play channel, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe because we are doing these shows Monday, Thursday, Friday. We'll probably go to 2 days a week at some point here, but we're going to run out the 3 times a week as long as we possibly can. So make sure you are subscribed on Pete's channel and the Splash Play channel and hit that like button. And of course, make sure to follow at Splash Play Pod so you'll know whenever we're going live. We do put out those episode tweets and also the podcast links after those go up too. So go check that out. And make sure you're also going to footballoutsiders.com/subscribe. A lot of exciting stuff going on out there, including the fact they're doing DVOA through the playoffs for the first time ever, which is going to be a pretty big change for what we're doing for America's favorite statistic is what I'm going to start to brand DVOA as, but go get it for yourself in your life at footballoutsiders.com/subscribe. 99 cents a week are the packages on there if you get a year's worth of the data for yourself. So go take a look at it and it'll be a great add to what you're trying to do in the playoffs, especially where you just have any little bit of minor edge you can get is going to be important. I do think DVOA provides that in the defense versus receiver stats. But Pete, wild week 18 here where the Chargers-Raiders game capped everything off on Sunday Night Football. We actually got the scenario where we could have seen kneel downs for an entire game, but these two teams, like assholes, instead tried really hard for 4 quarters, then went to OT. Ends up being a win for the Raiders 35-32 after Brandon Staley calls perhaps an ill-advised timeout. Some clips going around online of the Raiders players talking about they were just going to run out the clock and just a shitty situation, Pete, but a really interesting, compelling Sunday Night Football game like we thought it would be.
Yeah, I'm going to be completely transparent because that's all I know how to do. And I was not up for this game. I ended up going to bed very early, was catching up on Station 11 on HBO. So I was waking up to the aftermath this morning. Luckily, Ben Gretsch filled me in. He sent me some long Discord messages about everything that went down there towards the end of the game. And from what I can tell, Twitter was having quite the night last night dissecting all of this, the stuff with the timeouts. I think there were even lip readers out. People are trying to lip read this. What was it? Was it Carr and Austin Eckler that they were trying to deduce what they were saying to each other? So yeah, it sounds like I missed an awesome time.
Yeah, it is. What was really a wild one, and it came down to something which we were talking about in our company Slack at Edge Sports. They honestly, our data science team, some of our guys behind the scenes care so much about the various machinations and the why you would go for it on 4th downs, and that's why we are a really strong data provider. But they were debating it, and it turns out that actually this was kind of important for the Raiders, where if they don't kick that field goal, if they just kneel down and go to the tie, they're then playing the Chiefs this week instead of what they got instead, which is going to be the Steelers playing the Chiefs as a 13-point underdog going in. in. So I think the Raiders thought they had a better chance with just, not playing it for the draw here that would have gotten both the Chargers and the Raiders in the playoffs. So I get it for the Raiders, kind of a dick move by Rich Bisaccia where it lined up in a way that he could have let it go. But I think, Pete, that's why to me, Rich Bisaccia is somebody that we could be welcoming into the family again later on in the show, because I just love that move. Like I'm sure that Brandon Staley's like, maybe they'll be nice here. They'll end it here. We'll have a tie. We can go to the playoffs. We can all have a sharing circle of just AFC West teams thriving in the sunlight. And nope, Rich Bisaccia snakes him and kicks that field goal.
Yeah, I mean, I am disappointed just, for the playoffs. I mean, the Chargers are just a much more enjoyable fantasy offense to watch. I will say, yeah, that Raiders Cincy game, I think will be pretty interesting. That feels like it could be a true coin flip, just knowing how streaky the Bengals are. But I am bummed not to get the Chargers in the playoffs because, I think the Raiders can win a game? For sure. Do I think they could make a Super Bowl run? I don't think so. Whereas with the Chargers, like if you told me the Chargers got hot and went on a Super Bowl run, I would totally buy that. So the fact that we kind of lose out on a team that had legit Super Bowl, final equity, that kind of bums me out a bit. But good for the Raiders, man. Those guys are just absolutely plucky. Like they just refuse to kind of go down. Derek Carr kind of limits his mistakes. They've gone through, coaching changes. They don't have the best offensive skill group, especially when Waller's out. So yeah, I'm impressed by their resiliency.
Yeah, I think you got to give the credit to Rich Bisaccia, probably a guy that nobody knew going into the season. And I think, just kept this team together with the emails being leaked with John Gruden. Certainly Derek Carr having some veteran leadership doesn't hurt either. Guys like Hunter Renfrow stepping up, the Ruggs thing, another one that they had overcome this year. Like it is a crazy situation for a team. And I think too, Pete, this is something that's kind of gross when teams do this, but I think they're going to get a little bit of an edge here and maybe some media mentions over this next week because the playing for John Madden angle is right there. And I feel like that's got to come out at some point and just news articles over the next 5 days.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're just they're a bizarre team. I wonder what Gruden was thinking sitting at home watching that game.
Yeah, definitely got to be some weird vibes for him. Weird vibes as well in Indianapolis, where they completely blew a playoff spot, as some genius and brave analysts gave out on the shows this week. Thought there was a chance the Jags could win this one, and they do, in fact, win, Pete, 26-11 over the Colts. Real shocker here. Jonathan Taylor, you mentioned killing your cash game lineups. He hurt a lot of people, I'm sure, in cash games and GPPs. I thought he was one of the most rock-solid plays of the week as well. And just a downer end for a Colts team that seemed like they had mostly figured out how to keep Carson Wentz at bay, keep the bad versions of him at bay overall, really lean on Jonathan Taylor and as an elite, probably guy who's going to be the top pick overall next year in best ball drafts and in season-long drafts. And just a limp ending here for a Colts team and maybe a little bit of hope to give the Jags in the offseason as they do get a little bit something out of Trevor Lawrence in a way that they haven't gotten all year long.
Yeah, it's honestly bizarre because you watch that game and you assume this is like, oh, the Colts, locked up their playoff spot. And yeah, maybe they could play harder to get seed positioning and, they just fall over. But the combination of being a must-win game against a team that has looked truly inept all year, devoid of playmakers. I mean, just an embarrassing performance. I mean, I guess we have seen, the Jags have a decent pass rush. If there was the infamous game against the Bills, the double Josh Allen game. So we know they can generate pressure, but man, Wentz looked completely lost. And it was truly shocking to see them just fumble away what should have been kind of a cakewalk into the playoffs.
Yeah, should have been a nice run here for the Colts. I think a team that could have done damage in the playoffs. And something that bummed me out too, Pete, is I feel like we got a lot of Jonathan Taylor on the best ball drafts on this show. And that's something I would say where we're going to do this underdog best ball draft in a little bit. I presume we'll do the Mitten 3, a cheaper price tag for Pete to do on these streams. But if you're going into that gauntlet right now, like there's got to be a lot of Jonathan Taylor floating around, maybe some backdoor Colts stacks, not to mention just the Saints, some of these other teams that were right there at the precipice of making it that didn't make it in. And at Chargers too, I'm sure a lot of backdoor Charger stacks. I think the gauntlet's probably more plus EV, like you're paying a steeper price tag. But I think just because you're going against teams that didn't know all the information that drafting right now, I think that's a more plus EV tournament than doing the Mitten 3. I'll do more Mitten 3 lineups, but I do think if you have the money, doing the gauntlet right now is probably a decent move.
Yeah, I agree with you. Of course, there's going to probably be some super teams in there. That's how it kind of always shakes out. But there ended up being more landmines than I think we would have even expected. Not only did you have kind of the Bucks offense, imploding, all those AB and Godwin teams, those are shot. You had lots of people, Herzig, who's, one of the best, if not the best, best ball players. He was loading up on Chargers in the gauntlet because he thought they were really mispriced. Those are all wiped out. No one expected the Steelers to make it. No one was drafting the Raiders. I actually just did a mitten like right before we came on. Maybe that's why I was late. And Josh Jacobs is still free. He's in the last round. He's a 10th round pick. So I still think we're going to see a bit of an adjustment. But I agree with you. I think there's a ton of dead teams in Gauntlet. And I think it'll be pretty attractive now to hop in there and get really plus EV teams.
And Levi in the chat saying the Jags knocked them out of the survivor pool they had this year versus the Bills. Remember that game? I guess that is weird. The Jags wins have come against teams that you really think would have no chance at winning. And definitely in this coaching situation too, where they're playing for nothing, but that's the occasion one more time. And I think if you're a Jags fan, you just got to feel good about getting one good Trevor Lawrence performance here down the stretch. Speaking of not good performances, the Steelers also make the playoffs after narrowly edging the Ravens 16-13 in that game. They're now a 13-point underdog at Kansas City. Pete, I think Ben probably saw the news there in the playoffs. I was like, fuck, I have to keep going here. Like, he is not a man who has played like he wanted to play at all this year. And now he is going to be the biggest underdog of the wild card round. And maybe he has one more throw it back performance. I hope he does. Like, I'm not a Ben fan by any stretch, but I did enjoy Gunslinger Ben when he used to run and take hits and like would then chuck it 40 yards downfield and stand in that pocket and just take big blows. I wouldn't mind seeing one throwback performance, Pete, because if they don't get that, I don't know how they hang in at all versus Kansas City.
Yeah, it's been hilarious with Big Ben because we all, the season started, he looked awful. We're like, Big Ben needs to retire. He's complete dust. And then the narrative just keeps extending. It's like, okay, Big Ben's last home game. And it's like, all right, Big Ben's last game. And now it's like, all right, Big Ben's last playoff game. It's just like, how can this continue to go on? So yeah, I'm not excited about watching the Steelers in the playoffs. I really wish we could just swap the Chargers in for them. But that's what's going to happen. Maybe like last year in that wild card game, they got in an absolute shootout with the Browns. So maybe Big Ben can just get up for this game one more time, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And the one thing we have to say, Pete, that is a positive that we haven't had in NFL at all, but had happened in MLB a few times when those Yankee stars were retiring. There wasn't like a Big Ben farewell tour where every team gave him a gift on the way out. I guess also like it's possible he comes back. I think we're reading a lot into the fact that he said he's not going to be back, but he makes the playoffs. Maybe, I don't know, the Broncos or the Steelers somehow decide they want to go one more year, even if they said the alternate thing here down the stretch. But I feel like the gift giving for the Yankees that year was the most annoying thing I can recall seeing. And I'm glad they didn't have to fake liking Big Ben enough to give them like a piece of corn, I don't know, carved out of wood or whatever.
Big Ben is one of those guys who, like his actual on the field resume is like solid in his longevity in the league, but he doesn't strike me as someone that everyone's lining up to throw a retirement party for.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that, well, if we could save some, I'll save you the jokes that could be made, Pete, and just keep it moving here because we got one more playoff team who made it in to talk about the Niners. They make the playoffs after a comeback 27-24 win over the Rams in OT. Big win for them. They hold off the Saints, who really honestly didn't need to make the playoffs. With Taysom Hill also getting a Liz Frank injury, so not looking good for them if they did make it in, but they didn't. Thankfully, we got the Niners, and I think that is one thing, Pete, that our best ball teams have going for them. I talked time and time again. We kept getting on these Niners stacks, and I'm excited to see this team in the playoffs. They are built for the playoffs. Kyle Shanahan, his approach seems like it's built for the playoffs. And I don't want to spoil our playoff snake draft we're going to do, but the Niners, I think, probably the best value out of the teams who just narrowly made it in.
Yeah. The Niners are the one team that I definitely have been loading up on. And I think the reason why they were so cheap is just because of kind of the quarterback uncertainty. Both of the quarterbacks been a little banged up. No one ever gets super excited about Jimmy Garoppolo. We try to get excited about Trey Lance, but the team is not excited about Trey Lance. So I think they just kind of continued to slip because I noticed people really like the clean stacks. When you have the obvious QB pass catcher, people kind of gravitate to those. So yeah, there was a real buying opportunity on San Francisco. And I think they were a team that you didn't necessarily have to use the quarterback with. You could grab Debo, George Kittle, Eli Mitchell, and Ayuk, or three of those four, and then kind of play your quarterback, from the AFC side and hope to nail the playoff matchup there. So yeah, I think the 49ers are kind of like what I would have hoped the Chargers would have been if they got in, where if everything breaks right, they can legitimately make the Super Bowl. Even if they're not a favorite to do so, I think they're built to make it to the Super Bowl if they get hot at the right time.
Yeah, I'm fully on the same page with you. Eli Mitchell, a guy that we've talked about a lot, that I give Pete the credit for being earlier than a lot of the analysts out there. And I think he was a guy that I warmed up to. Would certainly would have been nice to see him be healthy. But I agree. Like, I think we got a lot of good value on them and the teams we did on this show. So hopefully that balances out all the negative EV that Jonathan Taylor will provide to both us and others out there. D Gold saying Big Ben hate running 5 years deep, but he still shows up. Unlike Pete on the cash game lineup review this morning, Pete, anything to quiet the haters here, or disappointed you didn't roll out your shell and talk through it on a stream this morning?
The cash game lineup review was literally last night, the Gilcast special edition lineup review. You actually got 2 cash game lineup reviews. You got Tilt Space last night and the Gilcast back to back. I gave you, I think that ended up being 2.5 hours of cash game lineup reviews. D-Gold, if that's not enough for you, then maybe become a YouTube member and actually pay me. And I will feel like doing more content for you.
There you go. That is a fair way to rebut anything on here. If I don't see that symbol next to your name, then
yeah,
I don't want to hear shit.
Yeah, so don't come ask me asking for more free content, you fucking asshole. No, I'm
D-Gold,
just kidding.
one of the Splash Play regulars, so I like you, D-Gold. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We got no Splash Play premium offerings to worry about. Okay, so do you want to do coach firings next, or do we want to do the playoff future snake draft? We could also do welcome to the family. I feel like the show has a lot of different paths, so choose your own adventure, Pete.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's save the coaches stuff for a little later. I mean, okay, here's what we do. I think we do welcome to the family, and then and that'll help transition us in. No, okay. I'm changing my mind. Coaches, welcome to the family, then playoff stuff.
Okay, and I also, before we get into the coaches, need to point out the regular season ride or die record. Pete does, in fact, pick up the win for the year. 44 and 217 is the record. 336 points, though, an average of 7.64 points per win. I go 31 and 230 despite getting 4 10-pointers this week. So I tried my best on the way out here. 296 points. But Pete, 9.56 points per win is what I did. So last year, you critiqued me for being a nitpicker. And here I am, just hitting 10-pointers time and time again. And I would go as far as to wager that if there were a sports book that were just doing like our various ride or dies every week, I would think if people took my bets, they'd be more profitable over the course of the year, Pete. So that's how I'm going to rain on your parade. Congrats on your win.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think it just goes to show, the kind of, playing conservative to prevent a lead, even over the years, I feel like it used to be more prevalent. I remember the old Broncos that I used to cheer for. They would drop into a prevent defense and teams would just like rip off 15-yard chunk plays, play after play, because they were trying to keep everything in front of them. And it just never works out. So, cash game week forced me into some tough decisions, having to knit it up with 1-pointers, and it didn't feel good. And I'm glad that era of my life is over for at least 360 more days.
The ride or dies will continue through the playoffs, and maybe I could win like the 2021-2022 crown, even though the regular season, that's what we all know people show up for, Pete. That's why they line up for us at the airports, because of our success in ride or dies during the regular season.
That's right. Yeah. People come to us for actionable content and old ladies who are obsessed with tushies.
So coach firings, and Nana Pete, I'm sure will be back on Thursday's show. Nana Pete might be making a lot of appearances when we have to fill time on 3 shows a week. Nana Pete, a segment every show. What a treat.
I don't know. I think we're going to run out of ways for Nana Pete to, objectify these NFL athletes.
Oh, we never run out. Pete, you're a bottomless. Nana Pete's a bottomless well, not you. Coach firings. Chicago fires Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. They are strongly linked to Jim Harbaugh. I would say former pal. I still like him. He's still a good guy. Big cat over at Barstool, tweeting highlight reels of Jim Harbaugh's time in the Bears and doing it in the half like really hoping Harbaugh does go to the Bears. I think, Pete, this is a perfect match. I think the Miami thing, Stephen Ross, the owner, did throw some water on that one, saying they had their chance to get Jim Harbaugh. He's also a Michigan booster, so he wants Harbaugh to stay at Michigan. I think this one, I don't know if there's another dark horse candidate, but Chicago going their way, going to Jim Harbaugh, getting Justin Fields to get at that tree that made so much of Colin Kaepernick, made so much of really every Niners QB who kind of came through there. I think it's a really good spot for them. I think this is a perfect one. I think the Bears should be very happy if they get Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, for some of these coaches that got axed, I actually like Brian Flores, but I'm clearly a bit of a Miami stan. But anyone has to be an upgrade over Nagy. It just seems like he completely botched this whole kind of scenario, how they handled the Justin Fields stuff. They've just been a continually uninspired offense, super conservative. So yeah, I'm happy to see him go. I'm glad they're clearing house. The Bears, man, I think you could probably make the case for a lot of franchise being, some of the most tormented, at least over the past like 10 to 15 years. But the Bears have to be just right up there, just a continual disappointment. And it's not just like a pure in the bottom of the barrel disappointment. It's like there's just a glimmer of hope always. And then they just slam the door on it repeatedly.
Yeah, they had that top number one in the league defense a few years ago, and they got Khalil Mack, and that sort of peeled away over the last few years. Losing Vic Fangio, who also got fired from Denver, doesn't hurt or doesn't help that much. But I agree with you. I think the Bears, I hope at some point it works out for them. Having the Bears be good, I think would be fun. Certainly a window here of opportunity, perhaps. The Vikings getting some turnover as well. Green Bay, who knows what will happen with Aaron Rodgers. So I hope that Chicago fans get something out of there because they are, they care so much about football, and I think they deserve somebody who actually feels the same way. You mentioned Miami. They fired Brian Flores. He won 8 out of his last 9 games. Again, supposedly they won't be going after Jim Harbaugh. The GM, Chris Grier, stays, which I think makes this look a little better than firing your minority coach who was running so hot towards the end. I think is good because Chris Grier also a black man, so that's a positive thing there for anybody trying to drum up anything on Twitter. But I would say Miami, Pete, like they need somebody who can get the most out of Tua or somebody who Deshaun Watson's going to handpick on the way in. Either option wouldn't surprise me, and I don't have a read on who it would be, but clearly they're not going to go to defensive coach route after they just went that way and actually got the most they could out of a pretty shitty roster. And just a downer here. You mentioned your Dolphins fandom because of your connections there, but I agree with you. Like just a shitty way for Brian Flores, and some other team should scoop him up for sure.
Yeah, and it just shows how thin the margins are, right? Because I don't remember all the exact scenarios, but if they would have beat Tennessee and then they go in and beat New England, I want to say they were pretty live for the playoffs in that scenario, but that game against Tennessee kind of sealed their fate. So then it's like, what? Okay, they get up for one game and then Flores gets to stay, and it seems like this was one of those spots where heads had to roll and they're committed to Tua at least for another year. So then it's like, all right, let's get rid of Flores. But man, I thought they were building really well around Flores. I thought the front office continued to make really good decisions as far as like what positions and how they were investing, in their offensive line and their defense. And it seemed like they had kind of like a 5-year type plan of like, yeah, we're not going to be Super Bowl contenders right away, but if we can continue to build over these next 2 to 3 years, we can be in that mix. And so to blow it up with Flores, who from everything I can tell, he's a coach that the players like playing for. He seems to have some like good XO savvy. So I don't know. It seems a little bizarre and reactionary to me, but that's kind of how it goes in the NFL where, if the coach isn't saving his job, well, then the GM has to be saving his job. And that's sometimes how it goes.
Yeah, I'm with you. And there was some reports of a power struggle between Flores and Grier too. So they went the direction they did. Brian Flores, I think if you're the Texans and you fire David Culley, wouldn't be that crazy of a move. And Timu saying that there was a report Flores didn't get along with both the GM and Tua, which is kind of weird because he had Tua's back at one point when there were the Deshaun Watson trade rumors. He's talking about keeping high character guys like Tua. But there's something weird going on in Miami. And I think there's definitely going to be a hand-picked coach that comes from Grier and the ownership group. Minnesota fires Mike Zimmer and their GM, Rick Spielman. I think this spot, Pete, would be one where Eric Bieniemy has been a guy that's been talked about a lot behind the scenes the last few years. The Kansas City offensive coordinator has been learning at that Andy Reid tree, and I think would be a great fit with Dalvin Cook and Madison. Maybe they cut ties with Cook. I guess they could because of some contract stuff. But I love this move for Minnesota potentially. Like, I think they had to get rid of Zimmer, who was not an aggressive play caller, also clearly was not getting enough out of that defense. But I think they can get somebody good and be good right away. If you have Justin Jefferson and Madison and Cook, and maybe you keep Thielen and get Irv Smith back, Tyler Conklin showed something this year. Minnesota should be good if they get the right hire.
Yeah, they're a fun team too. And even Zimmer has had his moments. He gets credited, for being this establish it, boomer coach, which he probably is, but you at least have to give him credit when they were in negative game scripts. They were willing to let Kirk Cousins just rip it and air it out. So I think if you have a coach who comes in that's pretty progressive there and leans towards the pass and in more scenarios, more spread offense type stuff, I mean, they have the weapons to be really, really good. Like you said, top running backs in the league, top wide receiver core in the league. So yeah, I'd be interested to see a really aggressive young coach with those teams. And Kirk Cousins, he's firmly middle of the road quarterback, but he's the kind of quarterback, if you have inventive offensive coordinator and the right pieces around him, he can be great. And so I think they definitely are just a piece or so away from making that a reality.
Yeah, and I would agree too. And then Ice Man saying in the chat they should have kept Spielman. I think you could make the case that they should have kept him given the drafts that they've had, getting Justin Jefferson with where he was. I think not a reach, but certainly a player that other teams could have gotten and didn't get. Making the moves to get Madison, to get Cook in. Like, I think, you give a lot of credit to the organization the last few years and the talent they have. And unfortunately for him, that's just the way it goes in the NFL. And I'm with you. Like, this is one of the most talented rosters you could take over. And I think whoever does take over is going to have a pretty good shot to win the North next year. Denver fires Vic Fangio. I actually, Pete, Amy Trask, the former Raiders front office woman who's on CBS?
The name sounds familiar. Yeah.
So she's on the network, whatever. She's on their pregame show. And for some reason, she follows me on Twitter. And I just tweeted her, like, we're pals yesterday. And like, she did in fact reply and was like, because I think it's a good move for the Broncos to fire Vic Fangio and to go that direction. And then the new ownership group can come in and either you get a high profile coach, maybe a high profile QB, and that increases the value of the team. She was saying, and again, you can see the replies on Twitter. So I'm not making this up. I'm a very credible human being with lots of great friends in high places, Pete. And I would say that for her perspective was that this could decrease the value of the team because sometimes the new ownership comes in and then wants to make their own choice. But to me, this is a spot where I think a high profile coach is going to come in. And I think they're getting a Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers tier of QB. And I think that's why they make this move. But I think it's an interesting spot, Pete. Denver, we saw defensively be good after trading Von Miller. And I don't know that I'd like it as much as the Vikings spot, but the Broncos, I know you are a Denver guy. You are a Colorado guy historically. I feel like a more attractive spot than a lot of these other jobs are going to be.
Yeah, obviously Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson, I think, are better weapons than any of the Broncos individual pieces. But I think on the whole, like the depth of those options is probably even better. Dalvin Cook is a veteran. Javonte Williams, I think, can ascend to that. I think, Jerry Jeudy and Sutton together, Noah Fant, like that offense could just be so dangerous, like immediate Super Bowl contender if they get, say a top 10 type quarterback there. So yeah, that'll be a fun offense if they can get decent quarterback play. But I guess you could also say that about so many teams, right? Like, if they just had a good quarterback, well, they would be in the Super Bowl conversation. And that's pretty much what it is every year. It's like, if you're one of the teams that has a top 8 quarterback, well, you're going to be live to win the Super Bowl.
They're another team too that because of just what we saw in Dallas this year, and I know we talked with Josh Norris on Friday, and he said that there are some people out there that are down a little bit on Kellen Moore and think he's not the one to really give the credit for the Cowboys offense. But the fact that he just had this 3 wide receiver offense be so explosive, and then also find production for Cedric Wilson, for Malik Turner this year in garbage time, for Dalton Schultz, like I think that's the kind of guy, if he goes to Denver, like they probably want a splash year higher, but if they get Kellen Moore, you're probably going to see the most you can possibly get out of all those guys there. Jerry Jeudy, you have certainly the Cortland Suttons of the world who've shown some upside. Like I think there's a lot. Tim Patrick's even been good enough. And you mentioned Noah Fant. Like they have a lot of weapons there that if somebody can make sense of, I think there's some upside there. And the one firing that didn't happen, Pete, that I know is a downer for a lot of the Giants fans, we did see Dave Gettleman retire as GM, so they'll have somebody at least doing the personnel shopping there. But Joe Judge remains for the Giants, and just another limp one. I didn't even realize they hadn't thrown a touchdown pass since October 24th, and they threw one yesterday. That was their first one. Just a terrible team that could be fun and has a lot of weapons, and instead is kind of shitty, and Joe Judge is defending himself at every turn and throwing other organizations under the bus for some reason. I just hate the dude, and I feel like if anybody should have gone, it probably was him, but he's got that owner's ear, and that is sometimes the most valuable thing you can have as a coach.
Yeah, I was surprised he didn't go either. And who knows? I know what do they call this? They call it Black Monday or whatever when this happened. So I don't know. Maybe there's still some news to come on that front. But yeah, I thought they were getting the axe as well.
All right, so playoff futures time, Pete, or any other coaches, I guess. I know you're not a big coach guy. I care more about this than Pete does, but I think it's interesting, something to track because it can really materially change some of the fantasy outlooks and betting outlooks of these teams. But anybody else you want to hit on, or do you want to move on to the next segment?
No, I have a very hard time mustering caring. And so that actually took a lot out of me, that segment. But I'd like to give myself a pat on the back for making it through with some takes.
You were probably just doing a best ball draft.
No, I haven't. I was doing one before, but I wasn't doing a best ball draft. I did get a text message from my wife that shook me to my core while we were on the air and said Robert Durst died. So, I have been processing that. Yeah.
The Jinx, one of the best murder ones. I think almost so good that it made all the other ones look worse after the fact. Like, I don't like them quite as much anymore, but the Jinx is an all-timer.
Well, the Jinx is like, you remember when Serial came out too, and it had that feel to it of like, holy shit, will they maybe solve this in real time while producing like the show? Whereas the Jinx like delivered on that. It was like, holy shit, they might actually stumble upon the answer to this. And then to have that finale pay off, it did feel like just this perfect bit of filmmaking, the way that story unfolded.
Just him rambling to himself while peeing.
Yes, just so good.
But yeah, anyway, that's the news out there for the coaches. We'll see if there's any other updates by the time we get to Thursday's show. All right, welcome to the family playoff futures draft. Which one do you choose?
Let's I don't know. You choose, Spags.
I think it's time for welcome to the family.
Shit.
Welcome to the family, CD. Chepale, what balls on this guy, Amado?
Shit, he's gonna take an eternal dirt nap any one of these days. Get out of here with this shit.
Lauren the Ferrari, back in my garage. Welcome to family.
I'm gonna welcome you to the family. Get in here, get in here.
It's time. We're back here welcoming some people to the family. A lot of the luster perhaps has been stolen recently by the old lady on the Thursday shows, but we're back welcoming some fine folks to the family. PD Overs, how you feeling after your cash games?
I'm doing good. It's great to be here. I agree, dude. Everybody talking about this Nana Pete, and I'm quite sick of this bullshit. Okay, we are the ones who built this channel brick by brick, and to get cucked by some old lady who likes big round tushies, it offends me.
It's truly disgusting to see what's happened to our proud culture. But the good news, once we're always doing here, is welcoming people to the family, celebrating Italian-American culture in such a flattering and positive light as we do here. And speaking of a guy, Pete, that just last night on the national stage, the bright lights, he's been welcomed to the family before. And this is where Pete and I differ when doing this bits, is I believe we welcome people to the family. I'm going to bring in Rich Bisaccia, who to me was welcomed to the family weeks ago because he's an Italian man who kind of resembles a stereotype, Pete, but now we have a legitimate reason to bring him into the family, and I think that's why he's live again, to get welcomed.
You know what? I like it, all right? I like it, dude. He's a nice Italian man. He grew up in the outskirts of Rome, cut his teeth as a paper boy there, then became a gondolier in the canals of Venice, and then found his way to the NFL. It's actually a really heartwarming story.
Actually, apparently he grew up in Yonkers, New York, not too far from me, in an actual place where there are some Italians. That's good. Though apparently he went to college at a place called Yankton, which I don't know. The last time I got a Yankton, Pete, my wife was not so happy.
Hey, I'll tell you what, it's when my wife's gone is when I yank a ton. All right, buddy? That's what I've said.
But Rich Bisaccia, the reason I'm breaking welcoming him back is not for the Yankton jokes, which apparently are there and I didn't even realize, but because the way that he played yesterday, sure, he could have kneeled down. He and Brandon Staley could have kneeled down together, held hands throughout the game as the players don't do anything and make it work. Instead, what he does, he lulls them into a false sense of security, lets Brandon Staley into overtime. Brandon Staley thinks, they might just run out the clock. Who knows? Let's get our defense in order. Rich Bisaccia pops him right in the back of the head like in Goodfellas, and that's what I like to see from our guys out there, Pete. And now he's going to the playoffs. I mean, Madon, Rich Bisaccia, the man behind it all, the Kaiser Soze of the NFL.
Dude, I couldn't agree more with you. I heard all these little analytics nerds saying, oh, you should just nail it down. It'll be so cute. No, this is football, and you go for the neck. You rip their heads off, and that's what Bisaccia did. And while we're on this note, I want to welcome another person from the Raiders family, okay? One Mr. Hunter Renfrows, dude. Hunter Renfrows, welcome to the family. Welcome to the playoffs, dude. Not only did this game go to overtime, you basically got to chill the entire game. You had 13 fucking yards receiving, but when you were in the game, you made it count. 2 tutties for my dude, just hardly out there running cardio, and then just waltzes in, gets 2 tutties. It's like when you come over for dinner, you don't bring anything, and you just sit down and you get a plate put right in front of you, because that's what we do around here. We're family. Hunter Renfrows, welcome to the playoffs.
Does he get any kisses through his face guard, or is he just getting to sit down and have a nice dinner?
I don't know if I can kiss that man. I don't know if I can kiss him. I'm not ready for that kind of level to our relationship. But I'll tell you what, if you beat the Bengals, Hunter Renfrow, I will stick my tongue so far down your fucking throat, it will make you choke.
Beautiful. And I love the transition you made too. We're really coming, despite being characters on a decently liked segment, I feel like we're really coming along as broadcasters.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, we are great at broadcasters.
And then a guy that I'm going to also welcome to the family. Actually, somebody was in my head. He just, now we're back. Here's a guy to welcome to the family. It's going to be a different angle than we usually do. We're welcoming these guys in because they did something great, or perhaps they just have an Italian name and vaguely resemble somebody that could be Italian. So that's also a reason why. But a guy I'm going to welcome in because he must have done some nice things for some of the other syndicates around the country yesterday. Carson Wentz, welcome to the family because that had to be throwing that game to give up the money line. Probably some shops out there said, hey, Carson, maybe I'm going to vaccinate you if you don't throw this game and then you don't go to the playoffs. And Carson's like, well, I can't be vaccinated. That's so unsafe. That's a crazy thing to do. Who would ever do that? And then he throws that game, Pete, and I get a lot of money out there. A lot of people out there making a lot of money off of this one. And that's why Carson, he's not part of our family. He's part of somebody's family out there.
Dude, it's funny you say that. I didn't even tell you this, dude, but I had this high profile head-to-head against this Jamoker, this dude, Peter Overzet, head-to-head cash game. I actually threw a little shekels Carson Wentz's way. Heard he was going to have JT in his cash game lineup. I said, hey, Wentzzy, can you play like shit, buddy, for a cool couple of G's? He said, no problem. And lo and behold, dude, shipped that head-to-head.
You're like, Carson, I got this $5 head-to-head. I simply have to win. I'll give you a 25% cut. And he said, yeah, sign me up.
I'm telling you, Carson Wentz, you would think it would cost more to pay off an NFL quarterback. I mean, this dude will take anything. He'll take a pack of spearmint bubble gum and a few shekels, dude. He'll do whatever the fuck you want.
Carson Wentz, throw-in games. Welcome to the family. Carson, Pete, anybody else you want to hit or you want to keep it moving on this busy show? We planned a lot, shockingly, for today.
It's a busy show. I do want to just give a couple highlights out. I want to welcome into the family a little Rashad Penny, Amon-Ra St. Brown. These dudes, the hottest motherfuckers in football. Just points. Give you a meatball, give you a meatball, give you a cannoli. You deserve it all. The world was your oyster down the stretch. Welcome to the family.
Oh, there's a lot of fine folks trying hard. There's going to be even less joining the family here in the playoffs, but that's just how it goes. Process of elimination is what we say. I did it in character, so it's totally fine and normal and not a poor reflection on me as a speaker.
That's right. We should probably terminate this segment now, though.
Mano, hit that outro. Welcome to the family, CD. Chepale, what balls on this guy, huh, Mano?
Shit, he's gonna take an eternal dirt nap any one of these days. Get out of here with this shit.
Lauren the Ferrari back in my garage. Welcome to the family.
I'm gonna welcome you to the family. Get in here.
All right, there we go. And there's Pete showing off the goods for the camera a little bit on the way out.
Well, did my stomach show?
Yeah, your little flesh, little pale bit of flesh popped out here. Might spike those views.
Wow, yeah. I like to, you show a little bit, keep them wanting. That's how we do it.
Keep them wanting more. It's a long off season. Got to keep people's attention somehow. Speaking of it, it's time for a playoff feature snake draft where, as is always the case, we're going to find some reason to compete against each other here. And what we're going to do is draft our favorite playoff teams, the teams that, I guess, Pete, here's a question. And I don't want to make this more complicated than it has to. We can just do this as a bit and never look at it again. Or we could assign points in some way. We could do something creative if we want. I don't think we have to, though.
No, I was just thinking it'd be fun. How about this? Well, I think we should bet. on it, and we should do a draft, and then whoever's team wins the Super Bowl, whoever gets the correct team that wins the Super Bowl, they get the pot, and we do a draft of the playoff teams.
Okay, so we're top headhunting them. We're not trying to do advance rates. I think that's fair. I will accept that bet.
Yeah, we'll each draft. What is it? 8 teams.
Let's see. We got there's 7 seeds in each conference, so there's 14 in total, so 7 each.
8, right? There's 8 teams in it. There's 7. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 8.
There's 7. 1 team gets a bye. 6 teams play each week in each conference.
Okay, what am I looking at here? Oh, this didn't have it updated. I was looking at a spreadsheet that had all of the odds of the playoffs and not the eliminated teams. We are now on the same page.
Or you could do basic arithmetic. I think either way.
Watch me accidentally draft New Orleans. Okay. So we're just going to snake draft. The question is, do you want the first pick? I don't think there's necessarily a huge advantage to the first pick, so I don't care if you want it or not.
I'll let you have the first pick.
Okay. I will do Packers with my first pick.
Okay, interesting choice. They are one of the top odds teams, so that makes sense. And I think I'm going to go to the actual top odds team for my first pick and take the Chiefs. I just feel like that's the most plus EV pick on the board, and that's why I was hoping you didn't go that way. But I think I feel good about getting the turn here.
Yeah.
All right, so I get one more.
Yeah.
I will take. I'm just gonna go chalk and just take the Bucks here. It's like the Bucks and Chiefs feel like another Super Bowl rematch potentially. There's a lot of ways they can get there, and I think that also leverages against your Packers. So I feel good about that.
I know. Well, I was trying to think through too if my strategy, if I wanted to load up on one conference, or if we're going to kind of zigzag back and forth. So I'll zig with you, and I'll take Buffalo from the AFC.
Okay, a Buffalo 3 seed in the AFC, and worth pointing out the Bucks are the 2 seed, and the Packers obviously the 1 seed, and the Chiefs are the 2 seed as well. So just keep that in mind here. Just want to give people actual information. You got one more pick.
Yeah, I'm going to do Dallas from the NFC.
Ooh, okay. So you're all right. Interesting. So breaking with the seeding a little bit. Dallas though showed that upside 50 points on Saturday with wild game there. I will take the Rams in the hopes that they figure it out first. And then I will also take, and this is really, we're slapping the Tennessee Titans fans in the face. I'm taking the Bengals. I think the Bengals have a chance to run hot here. They're going to have a game where they should score a lot of points against the Raiders. I think it could be like a snowball going downhill. And again, the Titans, we are disrespecting them immensely here.
Yes. So I'm going to hop on this. I'm going to double tap AFC. Then I will take Titans and Patriots.
I like the Patriots. That's a good value. All right. I will go. Oh man, we have some teams we still like available. I'll go back to the NFC, and actually no, because I feel pretty good about my guys there. I'm going to increase the volatility here. I'm going to take the Raiders as a pick, and then I'm also going to take I'm going to take the Cardinals. I'm going to take the Cardinals in the hopes that I get one team out of that matchup.
Okay, and then how many are we down? How many picks do you have now?
That's a good question, Pete.
Because I think the only teams left are Pittsburgh, San Francisco, and Philly, correct?
Yeah, so you would have 2, and then I'll have one more, I think.
Okay. Yes, I cannot pick the Steelers, so I will take the 49ers and Eagles and leave you with the Steelers.
All right, and the Big Ben narrative there, I got the Chiefs. So if somehow the Chiefs lose, I'll still be alive. Actually, not the worst one to fall into there, but I think the Steelers are a pretty clear last pick if you were to do any of these kind of drafts.
And looking at our accounting from other bets, I won the Mike Davis, Melvin Gordon bet, but then
what are the final RB numbers? Where did Melvin finish?
I think he was like RB 13 or 14. He did have that run on Sunday, but I think you needed way more than that.
He had 100 yards on Saturday. Where is this? See, I'm searching rankings and just getting people's rankings, which I do not care at all about. Results. What's the Google term to put in here to figure this out for sure?
I have a thing on my fantasy league where I can look at the top scores.
It looks like Melvin's not even close. I'm not going to make us do any more work here.
But the other one. Go ahead. No,
I was going to say the top 12 are Taylor, Eckler, Najee Harris, according to Fantasy Pros. Taylor, Eckler, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, James Conner, Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott, Kamara, Patterson, Gibson, Jones, Jacobs, Chubb. And then it looks like Melvin's at number 23. Mike Davis is about 35. So actually that's a win
How many,
on some level.
No, yeah, and Greg pointed out, I'm pretty sure when we made the bet, it was weeks 1 through 17. I almost remember having that conversation that we're going to do it through the fantasy playoffs. Yeah, because that's the bet was how it pertained to them as fantasy performers.
Well, either way, I fucking lose. That's fine.
But you have another one though that we need to look up. I'm pretty sure you won it. It was LaVisca versus Mike Davis.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Okay, so then are we break even on those?
Yeah, I just want to. What was?
Because that was a combined bet, the Mike Davis and Melvin Gordon. So if we're break even, then I'm perfectly content with that.
I believe we're break even because that was $100 bet too.
Okay, so we're putting 100 on this playoff then.
Yeah, so we're even, and now we've created a new bet, $100 playoff.
Okay, so let's shake on. I have to go a different way now, but let's shake on it. Okay, there, wait, where's your hand? Where's your hand's not in the hole? It's got to go into the hole. All right, there we go. Okay, that's thank you, thank you for complying with my OCD for
All
the
right,
sake of our hand.
let me just recap and write these down so I have it. So I have Buffalo, Green Bay, New England, Tennessee, Dallas, San Francisco, and Philly. And
Yep.
you have the other
I have
ones.
the field.
The field.
All right, that works. All right, so we got it, and we saved Willis some work. Everybody's winning here, and now we have just enough time, Pete, to do a playoff best ball draft because the third incarnation of the mitten is up. And actually, some people, Paul V, I think earlier pushed back on the idea that all the gauntlet teams that are going to survive might have super teams. I don't know that I'd believe that. I think they're still, yeah.
I disagree with that premise too, because when I say super team, it doesn't mean that they're a lock to advance. To me, super team means that you got guys at ADP values relative to where their ADPs are right now, but the pieces still have to come together in a way that you advance multiple weeks. So there are super teams, but that doesn't mean it goes your way. It's like closing line value, right? It's like, oh, you might have bet it before the line moved 4 points. That doesn't mean they're a lock to win. It just means you got it in good. So I do agree with your premise that there ended up being more of a shakeup in the landscape than I think we even anticipated, that there are a decent amount of dead teams in the gauntlet.
Yeah, it wasn't just like Chargers, Raiders, and then some people might have taken the Chargers, and then you could get the Raiders or something. Like it's a big difference because Jonathan Taylor we saw in our drafts is going like first, second round. Like that's a dead spot for a lot of people. Like I think anytime you have more information in these best ball tournaments than a portion of the field and when they put their entries in, like that's just going to be inherently fussy.
And like you could go through a bunch of these. Sony Michel was being really aggressively drafted throughout a lot of these, and now I mean it seems like Cam Akers is just going to be, kind of the bell cow back for them in the playoffs too. So like even, Sony Michel picks could be dead. We mentioned the Bucs. So yeah, I think it got shook up a really good bit. I almost just accidentally clicked Big Mitten. Can you imagine if I accidentally hopped us in a $250 draft?
You got enough money in there now. I see you took a little withdrawal though, did you?
A little withdrawal. King, I had to ship Eric Bime for his share of the wins.
I got a follow from Spike Week today. Of course, Eric Bime for his best ball show. So that must have been why he's like, oh, good. I feel good about Spags now that Pete paid me the money.
Yeah, you the way your brain works with it. I swear to God, you did that one anecdote just to say that lady follows you on Twitter.
Maybe. I know it was an interesting take though, because I would always think like, yeah, if you bring in like a high profile head coach, it helps the franchise and QB. Like if you got, I mean, even let's say like, I don't think these guys want to be together, but if you got Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll together, that's got to make the Broncos franchise more valuable than having Vic Fangio and Drew Lock.
Yeah.
That was just my thesis, but I thought it was interesting, Pete. I didn't know it wasn't all about the clout chasing. I just do this show for fun, Pete. Just do this for kicks.
That's right. Yeah. We'd all be here no matter what. Just because we love each other.
I enjoy our time together, Pete.
I do too. Ooh, we got Herzig in this draft.
Oh, okay. There are all the big names coming out.
All right. You get to see
a man you said was like the best baller, the bestest baller.
Yeah, so he won Underdog's big tournament last year. He finished top 10 in the DraftKings Millie Maker this year. I think that's enough of a resume in best ball's short history to crown him the best baller.
Not a bad place to be. Best ball. Look, I will say that it's been a lot of fun. I did set it on the show, but it's legitimately a thing that I'm glad we're going to be doing more time, talking best ball on this show this year, all year long, because I think it's a lot of fun. And to me, this is one of those, games where if you're just playing DFS every night, like DFS, I don't think I want to say it's been figured out because people keep saying that every year and it's not. It's like, it's not figured out. But it's still like in best ball, it's more fun. You're alive for longer. Like you have to give up your money and let somebody else hold it for a while, which is a downer of it. But I think it's just a really fun format that should be more mainstream than it is.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this summer and for the contest to kick off. I think we're gonna even see bigger prize pools this year as well, which will make it very fun. All right, so we do have the turn here, which will be interesting.
I mean, looking like the Chiefs are still going to be available. Kelsey's gone now, though. But you could do that Mahomes Tyreek stack, and now you're getting them for the wild card, which I think is a positive.
Yeah. Yeah, I was having conversations in the ship chasing Discord yesterday, just kind of debating the merits of 1 QB versus 2 QB. This is where I have to check in with you because you're the one who remembers what we've done these previous drafts. And if you you want to always do something new.
We have not had a Packers stack at any point. We have not also had Cowboys. We don't have a lot in the way of Tampa Bay. We definitely don't have full Tampa Bay.
So my thought would be to just grab Tyreek and Evans because I think this is actually fairly unique.
Okay.
I'll just do hang on. I'll do Evans first. Just to leave the Tampa Bay thing. But my thought that what I've been really doing is trying to push this. So like if I take Mike Evans, maybe no one will feel the need to go Brady because they just don't like the stacking options there.
Mhm.
And so sometimes you can get the quarterback like way cheaper because you just kind of ruin the stack. So I've been just inclined to just get as many high ceiling guys as I can early and then see if I can build super teams when people pass on them.
So I wouldn't mind getting Jamar here and trying to backdoor the Bengals too.
Sorry. Yeah, I should.
I mean, it's too late now. It's fine. But I just conceptually, like, I think that would have been an interesting one because I think we could have gotten Jamar and then maybe gotten the rest of the Bengals a little bit later on.
Yeah.
But but we have the AFC. We're going to plant our flag. Or actually,
I think it's also just I haven't gotten a lot of Evans Tyreek, so it feels a little unique there.
I mean, I always like trying to take the unique paths if you can. Like I talked about on this show, like when I was doing my NBA best balls, I was literally doing that off the top of my head. And it was just more like, okay, I know I'm getting a lot of Dejounte Murray. Like, what do I do at this spot instead? That'll give me a different, roadmap for what I'm doing. So I think if you're playing a bunch of lineups in these best balls, just trying to get yourself different looks and different looks from how you process it mentally each time, I think is important.
Yeah. And so this, my guess is Brady ends up going just because people can't help themselves. Like if I was on this side of the board, I'm not taking Brady because I'm not really excited about that stack there. So sometimes I think it's worth gambling because you can get them to slide. So we'll see. It is interesting to see Herzig taking Mix in there. Golden Boy stacks up Adams with Rodgers, which definitely makes sense there. What's fascinating about these teams, and I've actually, for a lot of my Packers builds, I've actually been going Aaron Jones here and not taking Rodgers. And then kind of building my quarterback from the AFC just because I don't really want to burn, so this is like right out of the gate. Like, obviously this is a great start just, from a macro correlation, but it's gonna be really hard for this team to advance out of round one because he's literally getting zeros from his top 3 draft picks, which is going to make it hard.
Yeah, and Herzig, you could see it seems like he's going to try to do the most of the Bengals and maybe backdoor Rams.
And it'll be interesting here to see if GA, because he has Jamar Chase, if he snipes Burrow from Herzig before or not. But in general, this kind of strategy that he's taking is the one I've enjoyed early, where he's just kind of loading up on the best studs and then is going to kind of figure out quarterback from the back.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So now here, assuming Spoon doesn't take him, like we now got the Tom Brady stack much cheaper, which now I feel really good about it. And we can even grab Gronk or Fournette here with Brady.
Ooh, that's interesting. That's actually a tough call for me because I do like Fournette coming back in and being the bell cow that he has been all year for them. But Gronk is also like Brady stayed in that game yesterday to get Gronk his bonus. Like
he made the decision for us. So I would have, that's interesting. I'm happy to grab Brady Fournette here, though. I think that makes a lot of sense for us.
Yep, I'm with you on it. And Levi in the chat saying, don't like taking Mahomes like that guy did, hoping that Hill would fall back to him. Can't count on people to let that happen. I think that's what you're saying, Pete. And I think that's actually pretty smart to just kind of decrease the value of the stack overall. So just you hope that people look away from it.
Right. And, if you're doing one draft, I get it. Like you want to lock up your stack. But if you're doing a bunch of these, it gets easier to be patient. And then you can really, because it's just like one thing you'll notice in these drafts too, I find running back to be fairly deep. You can get, like I was telling you earlier, you can still get Josh Jacobs in the last round for free in most of these, whereas the ceiling wide receivers really drop off. Like once you get to round 7 and 8, you're looking at Tyler Johnson and Cyril Granson. So it's like, I'd rather take my Tyreek Hill now, and then know that I can, take some stabs on, say running backs, other quarterbacks late.
I guess the question I would have for you, and you hearing you talk about it, and I'm not like this idea isn't fully fleshed out in my head, but it almost feels like you're kind of doing a zero wild card approach, where the hopes is that like you can get obviously these guys are still going to be playing in the wild card, the Bucks and now the Chiefs will too. But like if you get Josh Jacobs late, like you don't really need like you don't need Fournette to pop off in week one. You can get some guys cheap that should be enough to get you through in week one. And I feel like that can make the buy. Maybe that's the strategy for Golden Guy up top there, where like he can get those bye week guys or those, the non-Packers for cheap later on and hope they can just kind of cobble them through.
Yeah, and I definitely do the Josh Jacobs things way more when I do have like a bye week heavy team, because a lot of times I'll look at my running back and I'll have like a Devin Singletary, a Tony Pollard, and then I'm like, is this team really going to be able to advance out of round one? Well, probably not unless I get a ceiling game from Josh Jacobs. I wish there was a running back we felt good about on the Eagles. I just don't even really know how to handle that situation because those guys are all free too. I mean, Miles Sanders is a broken hand, but they didn't put him on IR, so I don't really know what to do with him.
Yeah, I think I feel like just how they've talked about his hand injury, like I think they would want to push him back, but then you still have Scott and Howard there. And if like Miles Sanders doesn't run good, or if his hand just hurts, like you could see him go away real fast. And it's not like you're going to go to Gainwell either. So I don't, yeah, I agree with you. Just staying away is probably the move.
So a couple quick takes here before we're on the clock. I think CH is definitely in play. If that's something we want to do here with the Chiefs. The nice thing about having the two best non-wild card or wild card teams is we're now also, if our Tampa Bay and KC win, which we're rooting for, they're also on opposite sides of the Titans and Packers. So we do have those available to us as far as not conflict of matchup here. But there's still a decent amount of directions we can go. Do you have any leans here? I'm going to remove quarterback from the pool, though.
Yeah, I think CEH right now would make sense to me.
Yeah. And I don't have strong takes on CH versus Darrell. I feel like it breaks either way, and I'll just, take what the draft room gives me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think, I would say don't take Eckler or Allen based on their ADPs would be my first suggestion. I kind of like the idea of Damian Harris, but we have too many running backs. So that's, I think, now off the table. We need an FC, right? Like, or no?
We can do either. We have a lot of flexibility. I'm thinking like Schultz or MBS, but I'm just going to put it.
Fine, yeah.
I'm just going to put in Schultz.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel like we could have maybe taken Pringle there too.
Yeah,
but he might still be around.
Yeah. So the only problem in this scenario with Schultz is if the Cowboys win, then they do play the Bucks, but it's not. Again, it's not the worst thing because we're trying to set up guys that can help us advance. And then we have this kind of core, right now we're playing for a Tampa KC Super Bowl. So it's basically the way I now think about it is how do we get in the most points to help us advance while still making sure we can serve our KC Tampa Super Bowl, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think honestly, I feel like we could have taken Pringle over Schultz in that spot, just in to really lean in on it more.
So I agree with you, but the reason I was able to push it, just play the ADP, is because I kind of think Pringle will still be here at our next pick.
I just worry about the Mahomes guy, just needing to kind of extract some value on his way back.
That's true. That is true.
But yeah, I like the construction we have, like the fact that we got two of the favorites to win it all, and they're both playing in the wild card round, and that's our two stacks. Like I'm kind of surprised we got that break.
Yeah. What are your takes on, because we have Brady, Fournette, and Evans, I think we're going to add one more Tampa Bay Buck. We're probably going to need to make a stand on like Grayson or Tyler Johnson as our last guy.
I still think it's Grayson. I actually didn't.
He had the hamstring yesterday, as I learned, because he was in my fucking cash lineup. But yeah, I think either are probably viable if we don't have concerns about Grayson's hammy.
I just feel like on a per play basis, Grayson has been so much better, and I would rather bank on the guy forcing him, like trying to play through it for the playoffs. And like Brady's shown I think a little bit of an affinity for him. So like that's how I would feel about it. I also, and I know you're not going to go this way, or I don't think you will. I wouldn't mind taking Keyshawn Vaughn at some point, just in case.
Yeah, the only reason if we had gone, say we had gotten Gronk instead of Fournette, then I love adding Vaughn later. But it's just like we've kind of made our bet, and now that bet is that Fournette is the guy in this version of the offense. So the other thing I'm thinking about here now, as far as like our construction, is so my thought is we're gonna go. This to me looks like it could be a 4-3-2-1 team. So the 4 is our Tampa Bay, our 3 is KC, and then we need to pick a 2 from AFC, another AFC team where we take 2 players from, and then we already have our one off in the NFC. So I think our big thing here, and Pringle does go to Herzig, actually, surprisingly. Our big thing here is trying to figure out what AFC team can we still get 2 players from that we feel comfortable with. And
Gabe
this is where
Davis
like,
right?
yeah. And this is honestly where I'd start to think a little bit more about like Steelers or Raiders.
The Raiders, I think, would appeal to me a good amount, but I don't hate the idea of trying to get Singletary is probably still available, right?
No, Singletary's long
No, he's gone. Okay, because I feel like Beasley and Singletary would have been nice, but yeah, I don't think it's worth taking Moss or Breida.
Yeah, so I'm trying to look at scenarios here. The Patriots would also be in the conversation, but their skill position players just are not exciting here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think we should pick.
I mean, I don't mind taking Beasley just to get some share of that off and of that team. Like, because they're a team that could beat the Chiefs.
Yeah. So in general, yeah, because the problem is if the Bills win, they play KC. So I don't love that, but we're just gonna do it just because we didn't get to discuss it more.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the end all be all. So now though, we should commit to the Bills as our other 2. So we're probably going to need to take Emmanuel Sanders later. We need to figure out our other buck though. So did you say Grayson?
I think Grayson. We could say honestly, Perriman apparently had 6 targets yesterday, which I didn't realize, and they do need somebody to run outside.
Yeah, let's just go Grayson. My only thought is like we have Evans is that we're making the bet on the outside guy. They both could be fine.
I think Grayson's ahead of Perriman on the pecking order, so I don't mind it. I just think if Grayson is hurt, like you're saying, like then maybe Perriman gets a bit of a boost.
Yeah. Trust me, Paul, I know. He had a hamstring it yesterday. The thing when you're playing for this is we're literally playing when you draft Grayson, you're playing, for Tampa Bay going to the Super Bowl and hoping that they're healthy over the next month or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't, in my perfect world, we go 2, but we also, it's not a necessity necessarily. So I think we still could draft a Raider here instead of a second Buffalo guy.
Is Renfro available?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean,
we can draft any of these guys. And this is why I kind of wish we would have done like Renfro Jacobs instead of the Beasley thing.
Okay. Yeah,
but I don't think it's bad. I just think in a scenario where you're KC heavy, you're wanting the Bills to lose. And then you're looking for like, if the Raiders win, right? If Bills win, they go and the Chiefs win, they play each other. If the Raiders win, they go to play the Titans. And so now you could have gotten 2 Raiders and the upset potential and the chance to get Raiders Chiefs in the AFC Championship.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think I got used to us not being quite as seeding focused and being a little more seeding agnostic, but I think at this point you probably can't afford to do that as much.
Yeah. Pious Devil, what are we drafting right now? We are drafting Underdog Playoff Best Ball Team. They've had a bunch of different contests. This is the Mitten 3, $5 price point. They also have a $25 one. And you have the players for the entire duration of the playoffs. And the strategy element is you have to advance each round. So in this one, we need to finish top 2 out of our 6 teams. So you're trying to balance advancing each round while also still having enough firepower to put together a full lineup in the Super Bowl, which would be 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. So there's a lot of game theory to it and lots of decision points, both kind of structurally and just the decisions you make on certain, backfields, wide receiver 3s, 4s. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, and I would also check out the Friday show we did with Josh Norris, because I thought I tweeted this out, so you could also just go to my Twitter and click the link for the direct time. But these guys had a pretty good conversation about the strategy behind it. I think it's worth checking out if you do dive in here.
Isn't it? To me, it's weird that Josh Jacobs is so free right now. I don't know.
At the very least, he gives you a potential flex guy.
Yeah. So the other thing we can do, we can add another Chiefs, or we can just draft Renfro, because in this scenario where we have 4 Tampa Bay, we would be live with either an Oakland or a KC in the Super Bowl versus Tampa Bay.
Or Vegas even.
Or sorry, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
I think you're right. I'm cool taking it. I like Renfro a lot. And I think if this team makes a run, it's going to be the guys we have. It's got to be Jacobs and Renfro in particular.
And the other nice thing about this, and these are kind of the tiebreaker decisions, we could have added, is Hardman still available? Oh no, he actually went. So, it was getting really bad on the Chiefs front anyways. Not only are we live for another Super Bowl matchup, but Renfro really helps us advance more than, say, DeMarcus Robinson just tossed into this,
And also, if they get to the Super Bowl, that's a lot of value on guys that are just basically going to be not drafted. The Mitten will have more of these guys in some of the other tournaments than the Gauntlet would that we talked about earlier. But those guys like Josh Jacobs and Hunter Renfro and Darren Waller, those 3, that's the entire offense. There's nobody else who does anything.
Yeah. And I get it. The Bengals are 6-point favorites against the Raiders, but even 6 points, I don't know if that should justify Joe Mixon going in round 2 versus Josh Jacobs going in round 9. And I'm not saying, Justin's building just a correlated team. He's not even thinking about it, but just how prices work, Josh Jacobs seems underpriced to me relative to their chances of winning.
I would agree. And Devin saying, thanks, guys. I'm addicted to playoff drafts. Hang out with us here. Hang out on Pete's channel. Of course, subscribe, because Pete's doing these drafts a lot, but we'll be doing another one on Thursday, another one on Friday. So doing as many of these as we can overall, because honestly, they're a lot of fun and they are not figured out. Best ball's obviously still not figured out either, but I guess it's the theme of the show. Nothing's really figured out, but playoff best ball, especially, I feel just hearing you guys talk on Friday, you and Josh Norris, there's clearly a lot of angles and just different approaches you can take that have, very well-rounded logic to them.
Yeah, and the reason they're so addicting too is because it's like playing golf, right? And you're trying to chase that perfect swing or whatever. You're always trying to chase the perfect draft because, I think there's always ways to recover and finish drafts that make sense. But obviously we look back at this and it's there's a couple picks I would like back to do, slightly differently. And then you're all right, I'll hop in another one and see. But then next time you do this draft, they might not gift you Tom Brady in round 3. And then you're in this vicious cycle of always trying to draft the perfect team. If we want to just quickly look at a couple things, one thing I noticed. So at first I was oh, Donta Foreman, I love that as a last round pick. Just kind of this idea of what if we bet against Derrick Henry being, fully healthy, but you took Derrick Henry in round 2. And to me, then it's once you draft Derrick Henry in round 2, you're making this bet. Derrick Henry's back and ready to go here in 2 weeks. So don't draft Foreman in that context. So that's the only thing. I just feel that's playing it way too safe. But let's check out Justin's team just because we know he has a proven track record of knowing what he's doing here. He obviously had the Bengals early, and then he kind of backdoors his Rams stack. So Kupp, Matthew Stafford, Odell, Sony Michel. He does then start to sprinkle in Pringle, and then he gets Higbee late, but then did the same kind of thing we did with the Raiders, but with the Steelers. Deontay Johnson and Najee Harris being yeah, they're projected to lose, but what if they win, or what if you get in a shootout with the Chiefs? And that's how he actually played it with the Pringle thing, was what if this is the shootout game, which I also think is another thing to consider, because I definitely fall into this trap where I'm oh, I don't want the teams that are matching up against each other because I want most of my guys to be able to advance each round. But we also see games crater where there's not a lot of points. And if one game ends up having 70 points scored in it, you're more than happy to have 3 guys from the same game, even if they're on opposite teams.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I think too, that could be a thing you need even in some ways just to advance. So I think that's good. And I think it's also not bad that we, besides me getting you to take Beasley, we pretty much drafted the same way as Herzig did. So I feel good about our approach.
Yeah, Beasley's the only pick I would want back. But otherwise, I like
Of course, it's
this.
the one where I'm like, Pete, take Beasley. And like, but I agree. Like with the way that I'm starting to see the board a little bit more like how you do. So I get it. I just think sometimes I get like that guy who took Henry and Foreman, where you're trying to capture an opportunity and then you kind of hedge just to capture that. And I think that's the mistake that like probably a lot of casual players like myself, like I try to get better at best ball. I think I'm live in NBA, as we talked about a lot on here. But I do think that's the difference between a guy like you and Herzig, is that you're on the 4D level of it. And I think that's something to compete against. Maybe also, compete against for your benefit too, if you are a newer player.
And like the other thing I'm just now thinking through in this is just the way ADPs work. And we ran into two of them that were perfect examples, like Chiefs and Bucks. Right now, the puzzle pieces align for you to get 3 good players from those teams. Like I feel good about Brady Evans, Fournette. I feel good about CH Tyreek. And then like you could have had another guy in there, say Pringle, if we would have prioritized him over Schultz. But after that, it's really hard to get 4 good guys from that team. Whereas there's some teams like the Bills, the Cardinals, the Cowboys, it's a little easier to get 4 good guys from them. So then I'm starting to think like structurally, okay, when I draft Bucks and Chiefs, maybe I want to add a third team that's a 3 team, or maybe I want to do a 3-3-2-2 build with those guys, just knowing that like I'm not really going to be able to get a 4th guy on those stacks that I really like, whereas there's others. So this is all just, it's not even how you necessarily feel about the team. It's just like how the ADPs line up where you can like maximize your win equity.
Yeah, no, I think that's really sharp, and I hope you guys are actually paying attention to this, because I think Pete's given a lot of helpful information here. So make sure you're hanging out on Pete's channel, getting subscribed, hit the like button on this video, whether you are watching on Pete's channel or the Splash Play channel, and be subscribed to both if you can. And Pete, what's your show schedule coming up here? Anything that you want to tell the people?
Yeah, what do we weird schedule this week? The big thing, if you guys are enjoying the playoff contest here, Spags and I are going to keep ripping Underdog playoff best ball drafts, but over on Ship Chasing this week, we are kind of dialed into the FFPC playoff contest, which is a little different in that it's just one lineup for the entire contest total points. So you're not having to worry about advancing each week. It's just you pick one player from each team. If you use Josh Allen, you can also use Diggs. You fill out a lineup. There's multiple flex spots. There's actually also kicker and defense. And we have a lot of fun with that contest every year. And so we decided to roll out a full week of programming. So we're going to actually have a show every day this week. Monday, Tuesday are going to be at 4 p.m. literally in 15 minutes, I just realized. And then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday will be at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. So if you have playoff best ball fever and you want to check out that contest, that would be a great place to start.
Yeah, check out Ship Chasing. Those guys are very sharp, and also talk about, like we talked about here, we do a lot of silliness in between, but they get right to the nitty gritty of it. I think today's Daigle on that, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Yeah, so go tune into that. Go check out, and of course, subscribe to the Ship Chasing channel as well. They're doing good stuff. For some reason, you're not on there. Follow at Peter Overzet. Follow at Chris Spags. Follow at Splash Play Pod. Pete's got a heart out. Pete's got a hard everything, don't you, buddy?
Yank a ton, baby.
Yank it a ton. We'll be back Thursday, 2:30 Eastern. So come join us then. We'll see you guys again soon. Good luck.